Alright, so I'm back with yet another quick Pauper deck tech. So the list I've been playing around with for the last few days is an elemental scam deck inspired by the terror of Modern, the evoke scam lists that run Fury, Grief. Well, Fury's banned now because it was too strong, but that run the 0 mana evoke elementals with effects that bring them back from the dead, like Not Dead After All, which is 1 black. It says, until end of turn, target creature you control gains when this creature dies. Return it to the battlefield tapped with a Wicked Roll token attached to it. So the Wicked Roll token is an aura token that gives it +1/+1. And when the aura is put into a graveyard, your opponent loses 1 life. So, and then another similar effect is something like Undying Evil, 1 black for an instant. Target creature gains Undying until end of turn. So when it dies, if it had no +1/+1 counters on it, return it to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter. So the idea is to use these effects alongside the Lorwyn block evoke elementals, which have a low alternate cost, but it says if you cast them for their evoke cost, they're sacrificed when they enter the battlefield, but they have ETB or leaves the battlefield effects, meaning that they function more like spells. But with these Undying Evils and Not Dead After All, we get double ETB triggers and the body sticks on the board, and the body becomes a little bit stronger because it gets +1/+1 or it gets a +1/+1 counter. So that's the crux of the deck. The main strategy is we want to just get value from our evoke elementals and make them stick on the board. So the elementals that we are running, so first up, we have Inner Flame Acolyte. It's 3 mana for a 2/2. It says when it enters the battlefield, target creature gets +2/+0 and gains haste until end of turn, and it has an evoke cost for 1 red. So we can evoke this, then we give it Undying, it returns to the battlefield as a 3/3, it ETBs again, so we can target it with its own ETB effect, give it +2/+0 in haste, and swing for 5, which is a neat little interaction. Then we are also running Ingot Chewer, 5 mana for a 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target artifact, and its evoke cost is 1 red. So again, with this, we get double ETB triggers, and then we add a 4/4 body that stays on the board. So against obviously decks that run tons of artifacts, that's very, very useful. Then at the top of the curve, we have 2 copies of Aether Snipe, 6 mana for a 4/4. It says when it enters the battlefield, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, and the evoke cost is 3. So one thing which is slightly annoying and should be noted here is that this is not a May, so we have to bounce some permanent when this enters, meaning that if our opponents don't have a target for us, we have to target one of our own permanents, which can be problematic. And then finally, the best Pauper evoke elemental of them all, we have the classic Muldrifter, which draws us cards. Then, because we are running so many elementals, we also run Smoke Braider, 2 mana for a 1/1. It has tap, add 2 mana in any combination of colors. Spend this mana only to play elementals or activate abilities of elementals. So it's both ramp and mana fixing. So the ramp off this is very, very nice, to the point that hard casting the Chewer and the Muldrifter was feeling very, very easy for me in testing. Then I should note, at the moment we are running just 2 copies of Village Rites, but we probably could benefit from more of these sort of card draw effects in the deck. But that's something I just need to experiment with more. Then our final sort of value generator, with the fact that we have so many creatures that die, is Carrion Feeder. So 1 black for a 1/1, it can't block. It says sacrifice a creature, put a +1/+1 counter on Carrion Feeder. So when we evoke our elementals, we can just sack them to this, since they're going to die anyway, and, gain value at least from the fact that we are sending creatures to the graveyard. Then I'm running Lightning Bolt just because it's so good. Then this is a triple color deck, so I'm using the bridges for my mana fixing. So I'm just running Cleansing Wildfire for a bit of ramp, card draw, and color fixing. And that is the entirety of the main board summed up. So yeah, this is kind of just a rough start for brewing. I have played some matches with it, and it has sometimes been quite explosive, or able to do some pretty neat things and draw a lot of cards. but it can also feel a bit clunky and a bit inconsistent, and I think possibly the mana base is still a bit rough and needs some optimizing. But it's definitely a fun, flavorful deck. You know, I really do like these Lorwyn block elementals, so it's kind of nice to have a shell that brings them all together. So then the sideboard is also pretty rough, but at the moment I'm just, including some other elementals that can be kind of useful in a pinch. So Fault Grinder, its ETB effect is it destroys a land. Awful Snout is also pretty cool. Its ETB, its leaves the battlefield effect is exile target card from a graveyard for 1 black, so pretty cheap. And then we also have Spite Bellows, which is 6 for a 6/1, evoke cost is 3, and it says when it leaves the battlefield, it deals 6 damage to target creature. So that's another option to consider. Then there are also obviously the more expensive elementals, which I'm currently not running just because the mana values are pretty high, such as Walker of the Grove and Soul of Migration. There may be a place for them in this deck, or, a list that runs higher CMC cards. But yeah, that's the deck in a nutshell. As always, if you have ideas or suggestions for the deck, or recommendations for cards that I brew around in future, please let me know. And if you like these videos, please consider subscribing because that really helps the channel. Alrighty, I'll end it there, and I will hopefully see you next time.